The moment I realized my own daughter might be planning to erase me from my own life, something inside me went cold. Not angry, not even shocked at first, just cold, like the kind of silence that settles before a storm hits hard and fast. I was standing outside my own house, boots planted in the frost, listening to people I loved talk about me like I was already gone. And in that moment, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. If I walked through that door, I might never walk out with control of my life again. My name is Graham Foster, and for more than 4 decades, I built my life with my own hands on a stretch of land that most people would call unforgiving. To me, it was home. Every fence post, every head of cattle, every inch of that ranch carried memories of sweat, struggle, and the kind of quiet pride you do not talk about, you just live. My wife Vivian used to say I understood the land better than I understood people, and maybe she was right. She had been gone 5 years, and losing her had been the hardest thing I ever faced, until the morning everything else started to unravel. That day began like every other. I was up before sunrise, walking the property as the sky slowly burned into shades of gold and copper over the mountains. The cold bit through my jacket, and the frost cracked under my boots as I checked the water troughs and watched the cattle stir. It was routine, the kind that grounds you, keeps your mind steady. Audrey and her husband Randall had come up from the city that weekend, which was unusual enough to sit in the back of my mind. They were not ranch people, not anymore. By 7, I was on the road heading to my annual heart checkup. It was nothing serious, just something my doctor had been monitoring for years. About 10 miles out, I reached up to adjust my hearing aid and felt nothing. I had left it sitting on the bathroom counter. I remember gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary, debating whether to keep going or turn back. Without it, I would not hear half of what the doctor said. So I turned around, figuring I would reschedule and handle it later. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked normal, too normal. The house was quiet, like it always was in the mornings. I stepped out of the truck, closing the door softly out of habit more than anything else. Years of ranch work teach you how to move without making noise, how to observe before acting. That instinct is the only reason I am telling this story today. As I walked toward the kitchen door, I heard voices drifting through the slightly open window. At first, I did not think much of it. Then I heard Randall's voice, low and controlled, saying that tonight they needed to finish it. Something in his tone made me stop. I moved closer, staying out of sight, my heart starting to pound in a way that had nothing to do with age or health. Audrey sounded unsure, hesitant, asking questions that did not sound like her. Then Randall said a word that made my stomach drop so hard I had to grip the porch railing to steady myself. Guardianship. He said it like it was already decided, like it was just paperwork waiting to be filed. My own daughter responded with doubt, asking what would happen if I found out. He brushed it off, talking about a doctor, an evaluation, and how everything would show exactly what they needed it to show. I stood there, listening as they discussed the value of my ranch like it was an asset to be transferred, not a life I had lived. They talked about millions of dollars, about control over my finances, my health, even where I would live. Randall sounded confident, almost rehearsed, while Audrey's voice wavered, caught somewhere between hesitation and agreement. And then she said yes, quiet, uncertain, but still yes. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not just hurt, not just betrayal, but clarity. I realized I could not confront them, not yet. Walking through that door would only warn them, and I needed time. Time to understand what they had already set in motion, time to protect myself before they made their move. So I turned around and left without making a sound, the gravel crunching under my tires as I drove away from the only home I had ever known. The drive felt longer than usual, even though I had taken that road thousands of times. My mind replayed every word I had heard, breaking it down piece by piece. This was not a random conversation. This was a plan, something they had been working on behind my back. And I had been blind to it. That realization cut deeper than anything else. I stopped at a gas station and called my doctor's office, rescheduling my appointment for later that afternoon. When I finally sat in that examination room, listening to my doctor tell me I was in excellent health, the irony was almost unbearable. According to the medical records, I was strong, capable, and fully in control of my faculties. Meanwhile, my own family was preparing to prove the exact opposite in a courtroom. That was when I made my decision. I would not confront them. I would outmaneuver them. I needed proof, documentation, and someone who knew how to dig into things quietly. By the time I got back to the ranch, Audrey and Randall were gone. The house looked the same, but it did not feel the same. It felt like a place where something had been taken, even if nothing physical was missing. I sat at the kitchen table and started writing a plan. Find out who was helping them, figure out how long this had been going on, and most importantly, make sure they never saw me coming. Every instinct I had told me to fight head on, but ranch life teaches patience. Sometimes you wait, you watch, and you let the other side think they are winning until the exact moment you prove them wrong. The next morning, I called a man I had not spoken to in years, a private investigator who once helped me recover stolen cattle. When he answered, I told him everything, not with anger, but with precision. Names, details, the conversation I overheard. He listened carefully, then agreed to start digging immediately. As soon as I hung up, I began documenting everything about my daily life, recording proof of my competence, my routines, my decisions. For the first time in my life, I was not just protecting my land. I was protecting my identity, my independence, and the truth of who I was. Somewhere out there, my daughter and her husband believed they had already won, that I was just an old man they could quietly remove from the equation. What they did not understand was this. I had spent my entire life surviving harsh winters, unpredictable storms, and problems that could wipe you out overnight. And now, the biggest threat I had ever faced was not nature. It was sitting at my own kitchen table, smiling at me like family. But they made one mistake. They underestimated me. And that was something I intended to make them regret.